Hi, Caleb with Brownhouse here. In today's video, we're going to be going over disassembly and maintenance of the Law Tactical Internal Carrier, or ARIC. So, let's get started. Alright, so first things first, we'll go ahead and put on our safety glasses, and then just jump right into it. So, the first thing we're going to need to do is just pull off our cup here, and we'll set that aside for now. Alright, what we need to do from this point is actually remove the guide rods and springs, and in order to do that we have to remove this end plate back here. And if you'll notice, the guide rods are actually keyed into the back of the end plate, so the way we get those off is just put it vertical here, relieve some of that spring tension, and the end plate will rotate right off of that guide rod, and then our spring will then slide right off of that, and the guide rod will fall out the front. Now if you'll notice on the guide rod, there's that keyed end in the back, and then this ball end in the front, which keeps it from slipping through the carrier. So this only goes in and out one way. And then we'll just do the same exact thing on the other side. Relieve some tension, pull our end plate off, spring, and guide rod. And that's it for that step right there. So the next thing we're going to do, and the rest of it honestly is just the same exact disassembly on your standard AR-15 bolt carrier group. So what we'll do is pull out our firing pin retaining pin here, just as we would on our standard AR-15. And with that, our firing pin will fall out, which will then allow us to remove our cam pin. We'll rotate that 90 degrees and pull it straight out. And with the cam pin out, now we can remove the bolt. Now that the ARIC is completely disassembled, let's talk about inspection. So as far as the cup in the back that we pulled off first, if you take a look here, you have these two bumpers, one on the top, one on the bottom. And I will note that they are exactly the same. There's no top and no bottom. They're interchangeable there. So we're going to look for any signs of excessive wear or any damage on those. So that includes, cracks, missing pieces, heavy dents, anything like that. And in which case, if we need to replace those, we'll do so. So extra ones of those are available from Law Tactical as well as the springs. And I will note, if we're going to go ahead and replace these, that's a pretty good indicator you need to be replacing your springs as well. So I would recommend always replacing all of those together. So to remove these, it's quite simple. Again, toolless. What we're going to do is just pull them straight out. And just kind of by working each side here, these will come right out. And you do the same exact thing for the one on the bottom. Now, whenever you're reinstalling new ones, all you need to do from there is just match the contour of the cup and then push it straight in. And then they reseat. You do the same thing for the top and bottom. They work exactly the same way. And that's it for the bumpers and cup inspection. So now we can move on to the springs. Now I know the first thing you're going to ask is, what's the round count for the spring? And before I really get into that, I'll say just look over the springs for any noticeable damage, kinks, anything like that. And as far as round count goes, it's designed to match whatever your current recoil system and your current weapon system is. So that varies depending on the current setup. Alright, and that's it for the recoil springs. Next, we can go ahead and just take a look at the gas rings. Now this does use the JP one-piece gas ring. It's not your standard style three-piece gas ring. So we're just going to look at those, any cracks, burrs, any visual damage like that. So we'll just spin those and take a good look at them there. And that's really it for the gas rings. As far as the rest of the bolt is concerned, it's going to be standard AR-15 bolts inspection. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the lugs for any damage. We're going to look at the extractor and ejector, make sure all that's good. And that's it for the bolt. Now to reassemble. So we're going to go ahead and take our carrier here. And this part of the reassembly process is indeed your standard AR-15, just as it was for the disassembly. So we're going to go ahead and insert the bolt with the extractor facing the ejection port side. And we're going to take our cam pin, and with the flats facing the gas key, we'll just drop that right in. and then rotate 90 degrees. If you can see what I'm doing here. Then from here, we can drop in our firing pin. Push that all the way in, and the firing pin retaining pin, we'll go ahead and put that right in as well. Push that all the way in. Alright, now we can move on to the recoil system. So what we're going to do is put this vertical. Alright, and noting before that one end of this is a ball end on this guide rod, we're going to insert the opposite end from the front of the bolt carrier. Alright, and the way I'm going to do this is pull it all the way, hold it with my thumb right there so it can't slide down. Then I'm going to take the recoil spring and slide it on with either direction. Both sides of this recoil spring are the same. Alright, and from here I'm going to need to compress this recoil spring past that keyway right there. Then I'm going to take my end plate, and with the slot facing the bottom of the bolt carrier group, I'm going to go ahead and key that on. I can relieve tension on the spring just like that, and do the same exact thing on the other side. Take my rod from the front, pull it up, hold it in place, and recoil spring on just as before. Compress. And then key it on. Relieve tension. And then I can just take my cup with the finger facing upward, slide that on. And now the ARIC is completely reassembled. And one thing to note here is that the standard AR-15 gas ring check does not apply here because we're using that one-piece gas ring in the ARIC. So for example, if you're not familiar with that, the way to check your gas rings on your standard 3-piece would be to put your bolt carrier group vertical, and if the bolt carrier group doesn't collapse, that's your gas ring check. Then you know your gas rings are good. Like I said, that does not apply here because regardless of which bolt carrier group you're using, it will compress with those one-piece gas rings. So just be aware there, just because it's collapsing, that doesn't mean your gas rings are bad. So once you're reassembled, you're ready to lubricate and install right back into your firearm. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to give us a call on the tech line. As always, feel free to reach out to Law Tactical directly. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.